following presentation is a brief overview of the geography of the Gospels. The next 4 slides in this presentation take us from the coastline along the Mediterranean Sea all the way through to the Transjordanian Mountains on the east side of the Jordan River. We begin with the coastal plains, that area that is relatively low topographically. It is in this area that the Philistines dwelt in the Old Testament times. To some degree, it is now the home of the Palestinians, including the Gaza Strip. After the coastal plains, the next elevated region that we want to talk about is the Central Highlands, which includes portions of Galilee, Samaria, and then into Judea. We find Mount Gerizim, which is centrally located in Samaria. We find Jerusalem in the hill country. The Psalms, you find the Songs of Ascent, in which the people would sing these songs as they made their pilgrimage up to Jerusalem. Next is the Jordan Rift Valley, where there is a significant decline in elevation between 2 mountain ranges, basically, the Central Highlands in Israel and then the Transjordanian Mountains. The name Jordan comes from the Hebrew verb which means to descend, both from east or west. You go down from the mountains into the river valley. Also, from north to south, you go down from the Sea of Galilee to the Dead Sea, and all of these demonstrate this descent in elevation. In Old Testament times, there were 3 Transjordanian tribes that lived on the east side of the Jordan River. One was the Ammonites, one was the Moabites, and one was the Edomites. When Moses looked from Moab across the river into the Promised Land, he was in this Transjordanian mountain range. In New Testament times, this area, which the arrow points to, is referred to as Perea. There are 5 major areas that will be focused on geographically as we study the Gospels. We see Jesus being born in Bethlehem in Judea. After a short time in Egypt, Mary and Joseph took him to settle in their hometown of Nazareth in Galilee, as you will note from the west side of the Sea of Galilee, the region called Galilee. And this is where Jesus began his ministry at the age of 30 in fulfillment of Isaiah chapter 9. In Galilee of the Gentiles, the people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Jesus also ministered in Samaria, he ministered in Judea, in Perea, and in the Decapolis. The following map depicts the growth of Herod's kingdom. Herod, who was not of royal blood, was actually named King of the Jews by the Roman Senate, and you will learn more about that in your coursework. But you will note that there were additions to the territory in 40 BC, 30 BC, 23 BC, and 20 BC. All of this you will note from the key on the map. Upon the death of Herod in 4 BC, his kingdom was divvied up into sections to the rest of his family, as you will see depicted here in the key on this map. Based on Matthew chapter 1, Luke chapter 1, Luke chapter 2, and Matthew chapter 2, we have the birth of Jesus in Bethlehem. We have the sojourn into Egypt as recorded in Matthew chapter 2, and then the return to the Promised Land with Mary and Joseph taking him to Nazareth in Galilee, where he grew up a Nazarene. The remainder of this presentation is a series of self-contained maps meant to highlight the ministries of Jesus and John the Baptist. Watch through them carefully, pausing them if you need to take notes, and thus familiarize yourself with them so that you can utilize this information as you're reading through the NIV Harmony of the Gospels and as you're reading through the New Testament.